Okay, welcome to Stampscaping 101. This is a scene that I just stamped out. Really simple scene, kind of in response to the previous video featuring the glossy paper tests. I used the, just wanted to stamp out a scene using the Lakeside Cove Large in kind of a less sterile method than just stamping it out for the sake of checking it for detail. In this scene right here, it's pretty straightforward. I just stamped this, here's Lakeside Cove, but just using the Cloud with Moon Large right here, but just for kicks adding a little bit of extra texturing up in the sky around the clouds and a little bit down here. And then really hitting the bottom portion of the scene with a stamp called Tiny Rocks for that extra texturing in the water down here. And I just went in and used a blue gel pen for those little additional highlights down there. And then the real lighter one, white ones are white gel pen. But playing with all these different textures in different values, as well as the values of the inks that were used, light blues, darker blues, and using some light blue with your highlights as well to complement the lightest of highlights using a white gel pen. Kind of adds to the overall. You can see those little highlights in my rocks, kind of reinforcing the idea of the direction of light. And I don't know, kind of threw that moon at a bit of an angle like that. I don't know, you'll see it in the video if you choose to watch it. But anyways, kind of a fun scene, just a quick one to take off a little rust from not stamping for a couple weeks, and a few more highlights. These gel pens are really good too. If you do a kind of a darker scene, you can, if you choose to, you can sign your work here as well, date it, and you have a complete card. I didn't spray this one, but I think I might, just to, you know, really make sure that I retain the vibrancy of the, you know, kind of a freshly stamped scene in terms of the saturation and depth of color. So anyways, full moon over the lake. Hope you enjoy the creation of the scene, and thanks for tuning into the channel. Drop me a note in the comment section if you have any questions. Okay, after doing that last video, a fairly sterile look at some different glossy cardstocks and using this Lakeside Cove Large on it, I felt like doing a relatively quick scene using that same stamp. That's kind of my go-to stamp. I've used it for 20 years now. Maybe not that exact one, but certainly that image, but I never seem to get tired of it. And if I haven't stamped for a while, just the familiarity with it and just kind of using it kind of gets me back in the swing of things. It's really versatile. You can do it in all kinds of different scenes, just from the bold silhouette shape of it, and it has this kind of window in there, so you can place other types of imagery in there. But anyways, I thought I would do something using some a variety of values to hopefully give this scene kind of a softer look. I want to do it under a kind of a full moon, kind of inspired by the moon I saw think it was maybe 2 nights ago. I thought it was full, but I think it was probably a day off from it, but it just looked gigantic on the, when it was kind of low on the horizon. And it was kind of peering from behind a lot of cloud cover, so but not so much cloud cover that that it obscured it, but there was a ton of light coming off of it as well. So anyways, we'll see what I can come up with. The color that I'm using is a Memento Bahama Blue. What I'm going for here is what I want out of this impression is for this to be kind of a medium tone value of blue. And I want this to be kind of, I don't know, full of atmosphere and kind of a softness to the sky. Trying to think if I want to do that at a bit of an angle, or let's do this. Let's do it on a kind of in a landscape format, you know, kind of longer. And I think I am. I think I'm going to tilt this a little bit, just for a little bit of added kind of visual movement in the scene. Okay. I don't want 2 moons in here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of these clouds from this side, just over here in the corner. Taking off some ink off of it, just kind of putting some streaks onto the rubber itself so that it stamps out a little bit streakier and kind of gives a little bit of a variety of value to the impression. I got a little bit more of that moon in there, but I don't care about that. Okay, that's what we're looking at right now. I could stamp some other clouds down here as a reflection, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I do reflections a lot in scenes, which is probably going to be the reason why I'm not doing it here. I just for a change. Okay. This is the Cloud Alto Cumulus. I want to give this cloud with moon large a little bit of a different look with some additional texture. Okay. And I think I'll just use the same kind of medium value blue, and I'll go right over the top here, kind of staying with that same angle on here, okay? I know this kind of looks strange right now, without some additional tone. It looks really sloppy, but yeah, let's see. We'll see where it takes us and the end result. All right. Let's clean off a stylus tool tip here. You usually just put some water into a paper towel or something like that, and I just kind of dab this right on in there, and it cleans off the tips fairly well. I just used this tip for the first time, maybe it was yesterday or last night. So the ink is fairly wet still. Okay. Anyways, you can see that ink comes off fairly well. I don't need it for it to come all come out, but I want to remove some of the darker blue that was on there. Alright, now let's get this really saturated with ink, okay? So I'm going with my re-inker fluid. For the pad, it's going to be an Adirondack Lights Aqua. Kind of the same color scheme I used on that glossy paper tests. Get a good slathering of that ink in your tip there. And looking at this scene right here, I want that moon to be fairly light. It's going to be my source of illumination in the scene. I don't want it to be stark white, though. I'm thinking I want it to be a little bit more kind of muted in terms of a light source. So maybe I'll run some of this blue over the top of that moon. Okay, something like that. Looks pretty good. Okay. Alright, that was the aqua. Let's move on to the Bahama blue. Same blue that I stamped my imagery in. It almost seems like a darker blue, though, to me for some reason. As I'm applying some of this ink, I find that there's so much ink that it's on the surface of the paper that if I press too hard, it's kind of removing some of the ink. And plus the Memento ink that I'm using is a fairly thick ink in itself, so fairly thick ink over a fairly wet page, and you get kind of a lifting of the ink. So maybe change up in your motion. Maybe instead of streaking, you do more dabbing, to build up a little tone on there. Switching up to the Memento Danube blue. I think I'm going to want to take this fairly dark. I want to do something on this. I just decided. Let's take this really dark. So let's get some more of this kind of darker value blue into here. Alright, I need an ink that's going to kind of penetrate the paper a little bit more. Let's switch up to the Marvy line of inks. It's kind of a thinner style of ink. And hopefully I can get some some really deep applications with that. Okay, I still have all the other colors of ink in there, all the other brands, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, yeah, I can feel it. It's a different feel. Yeah, I can kind of feel the ink penetrating because this isn't gliding along so so smoothly, I guess. I mean, it's still smooth, but it's just not kind of sitting on the surface of the paper as much as I make that swipe. The tip isn't as wet because the ink isn't as slippery. Okay. See that right there? I often kind of build up a little puddle of ink first, like that, and then I kind of blend it out, okay? You get a good amount of ink like that. Don't do that in the lighter areas because, you know, there's not as much ink there, but kind of in the darker edges and the corners, you can kind of build up a little ink like that, a little puddle, and just kind of spread it out, and it'll, your stylus tool will glide really nicely and smoothly, like I don't know, taking ink across like a glass surface or something like that. And don't worry if your inks aren't, you know, if your colors or values of whatever hue you're working on aren't getting very dark, you know, if you want it to get dark or whatnot, just kind of let it develop. As I go over this more and more of my ink is penetrating the paper, okay, and it darkens gradually, which isn't a bad thing. If the ink isn't applying quickly, you know, the other side of that means that you know, that you have a lot more control over it that way. Okay, so can just let it happen. All right. I'm wondering where my Prussian blue is. It's really a super dark color from Marvy. Denim's a great color from in the Adirondack line of inks from Ranger. It's a really dark blue. As I do this, I feel like the shadows are kind of brightening up a little bit. Not lightening up, but brightening in terms of the intensity of the color. So I'm kind of applying a lot of it, more than I thought I would. Okay. We have our background now. Using black. All right. Trying to figure out why I want this. You know, I'm kind of moving this around a little bit. Seems as good a place as any. What I'm doing is I'm kind of aiming for that moon to show up kind of in back of some of these trees here. I don't want to obscure the whole thing, but I thought having some trees near it, on it, or kind of really close proximity, I can really play that dark shape off that lighter object in the background. Kind of like that. Filling up that edge right there, and I'll fill up this edge, coloring up this side of it, overlapping that impression a little bit. Alright, I want some additional texture down here, so let me see where my little pebbles or tiny rock stamp is. I might have to pause this video. Newer stamps aren't really organized because I've been using them a lot, so I just kind of leave them on the surface of my desk. Okay, pausing. Okay, I was looking for these two little pieces of rubber here. I'm going to use the bigger one. Acrylic block with a little bit of tack and peel on it. This stamp is probably about 1.25 inches maybe, or so. I'm just going to use black. Let me see. I tell you what, let's go multi-tone on this. Let me use my dark blue. I tell you what, let's go for the denim again for some impressions. Don't know if it will show up or not. You know, the background got pretty dark, so we'll see. Yeah, looks pretty good. Right down here. Okay, let's focus that in a little bit. It's kind of laying down texture upon texture. I'm trying to achieve a nice rich surface here. In the end result, you might not be able to see all of these rocks once the ink dries, but I'm always of the belief that I don't know, it kind of adds to the visual depth and feeling of a piece. You know, with those sub marks in there, like those rocks. Okay. Some of those rocks, if they kind of dry very lightly, they could be, you know, certainly be kind of the rocks under the water. Alright, going back with the same stamp, Tiny Rocks. I'm going to stamp it now in black to try and achieve kind of a sense of depth within the scene using value. Okay, so you can use the same stamp, different colors, different values, to achieve that depth within a scene. You don't have to use a different stamp, you can just change your value, especially when you're working through values, like we do in this technique right here of layered dye-based values. Okay. Fairly pleased with that. You can see that nice deep water. And I feel that, you know, some of these lighter little areas like back in here, you know, in here, read visually to me as kind of underwater rocks. And we see that little texture down there of the cloud cumulus kind of reading as another, you know, rich texture, kind of replicating some of the textures within the sky. Okay. Alright. I don't think I want to use that smaller tall rock at this point in time. I think that's enough. It's busy enough with just using those that one image, but stamped many times. Okay, looking fairly dark in value, of course, by using that black for the imagery down below. So I'm going to take a little bit of black ink and apply it to the sky, not heavy-handedly, but just kind of in the corners here, to introduce that value to the top portion of the scene, which will help to frame the scene off and contain the sky a little bit more. It contains the sky, but it kind of contains the entire composition by doing this. Okay. Let's put it down here in the bottom corners as well. So a lot of my go-to images, I don't always do those kind of rocks in the water, but okay, let's add a little bit more foreground. Okay, let's put ourselves on the edge of the lake with some additional reeds, which tells us there's land on this side, and that's where the viewer is kind of witnessing this scene. I always kind of put myself in the scene. I think, you know, I don't know, consciously or subconsciously. Just in terms of a viewer looking into there, it gives me some land to, you know, to sit on or whatever, stand and look across the, you know, water like this. Or if I put something in there, I don't know if it's putting me in it or not, or just kind of looking into the scene again. Not really sure. But, I don't know if I want that in there. Okay, let's see. Trying to think if I want anything else in here. I might just leave it at that for now. Here's a gel pen. Here's a paint pen. Let's go with the gel pen. The gel pen has a little bit of finer tip. Might be a little bit too dark. At this point in time, I'm really not too interested in putting too much really light marks in there. I don't know. I say that right now, but maybe something will change. Okay, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit here. You can see that little streak of light there really helps that area, doesn't it? You take that streak of light out and I feel it changes the... I wasn't really planning on it, and I didn't really think about it until now. I'm looking in the camera screen, and I think that really, that little scratch of light really helps. Okay, this is a light blue gel pen, and I'm adding some texturing to the water surface here. I often use white for this, but if I did it white on this such a dark surface, it would really stand out a lot. Okay, see that? Okay. Just another layer of texture. It kind of mimics the shapes of the tiny rocks image in the water. I don't know if I want it up here or not. Kind of in the sky. Maybe a little bit. Look at these rocks in here. I wonder if I can put a little bit of moss on the top of those rocks. Okay, this is a Le Plume permanent marker. Alcohol-based. Everything that we've used so far is water-based, so if I put this on there, hopefully it won't smear anything, and it shouldn't. I guess it could if the black ink is still a little bit wet. And I'm just thinking about adding just a little hint of, you know, different temperature into these rocks, or just on any part of the scene, just to kind of liven it up a little bit. I don't know if you can see that. slight temperature change up there. That's why it's good with going with something fairly, light like that. Okay. A little glary with those lights. Okay. Well, let's try a little bit of a white gel pen just to add that real nice little sparkle or kind of a kick to the scene. See it down here? All those old, really light little specks. How some of these rocks are catching that light. Okay. I'm thinking I'm wondering if I want anything else in there. I guess not, maybe not. If I do, I'll edit later on, and I'll have it in the beginning of this video. But anyways, just a fairly quick scene here. Pretty fun. And heavy in texturing down here. Layers of ink in terms of values and contrasts and values. Some areas are kind of light against something nice and crisp and dark. Additional textures for the sky. We have something fairly soft, but just the addition of a little bit of texture up there like that can kind of bump it up a degree in terms of your textural range. And let's see, I'm going to try to use some new cardstock envelopes that I just picked up to get this into a card format, and I'll mat it off. Alright, anyways, hope you enjoyed the creation of this lakeside scene, and as always, want to thank you for watching the Stampscapes channel.